In our Data Masterclass podcast, data leaders share their unique stories. In this episode, we talked with Viviana Ortiz Ruiz, the head of data at Parcel Lab, a logistics tech scale-up, on how she created a thriving data culture through analytics empowerment. Let us welcome your host, Alex Borek.
Hello, my data friends. I have the big pleasure to introduce you to Viviana Ortiz Ruiz, who is the head of data at Parcel Lab. Welcome to the show, Viviana.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
And we will talk today about how analytics drives data culture and how you need that tangible element to actually create that data culture. It doesn't appear just by doing the soft sides, but you need something also in the core. But before we jump into that discussion, I want you to give just a glimpse for our audience here on your own background, as head of data at Parcel Lab. What's your role there? And maybe what did you do before you jumped into that role?
Thanks a lot, Alex. So basically, how did I ended up in data? Actually, I'm engineer. I'm an industrial mechanical engineer. That was my bachelor. Then I went to do my master's degree in Germany. I ended up working a lot with digital development of products, which obviously has to do a lot with data management, processing, and so on. And I have worked a lot in e-commerce operations, creating also some digital solutions to improve the e-commerce operations in retail. And therefore, that ended up that I led the data team for Decathlon, among obviously other experience in all production, in engineering, complex engineering systems, and so on. But I led the data team at Decathlon Germany, and currently I'm leading the data team in Parcel Lab, which is a software as a service company based in Germany.
Great. And you're originally from Venezuela, is that right?
No, I'm original from Ecuador.
Ecuador, sorry. Yeah.
Close, but not the same.
Ecuador. Wow. So what brought you back then to Germany? That's quite a far journey.
Yeah, that was quite a far journey. That was almost 9 years ago. I came to Germany, like I said, to do my master's degree. I ended up loving the country, the culture, and obviously finding a lot of potential in technology, in operations, and in all this world of data.
So, what was the moment when you actually wanted to get into the discipline of data or the data space?
Well, I have actually my whole life as an engineer, because, as industrial mechanical engineer, you learn a lot of statistics. So that's a fact, and mathematics. And you learn a lot, you apply not that much, because currently there's a lot of software tools that you have from asset management, which I have done, to design. You do a lot of computer-aided design, and you always use. But at the end, what is in the background, what is in the backstage, is data. So it happens to be that you ended up without knowing that you ended up doing the work of a data analyst or a data scientist as well. And that happens that the supernatural. We do not identify it as a specific role. We don't say, yes, we are doing data. We do data because it's needed for the job, to complete the job as an engineer. And therefore, I have always used different tools and in the past as an engineer. And then when I started, like I said, developing and working in the university, doing some research for operations, for improving operations, and especially in supply chain, I came up with having to work with more advanced data processes, and that's how it started. And then when I went to the e-commerce, to the retail operations, it happens that obviously is needed, and there's a lot of potential. There's a lot that you can do to empower the business and also to offer a better experience to the end customer.
Great. Wow, cool. Tell us a bit about your company right now. That's also quite an interesting environment you're in.
Yeah, this is great because you have a complete overview of different industry fields of the retail, but kind of in another role, right? Like I said, we are a software as a service company. We basically integrate the data from carriers and from the retailer to support in the post-purchase journey. That's what we do. We support with communications in the name of our customers, of course, of the retailer to the end customer, with analytics, advanced analytics, as well with, we order status pages and so on. We have also other product related to the returns management. And right now, a lot of, data as a product with get very, very new predictions and business intelligence that we are developing. But this is in few words and super simple what we do.
So what do you sell?
So basically we say that we sell the service of integrating the data of the retailer and the carrier and taking over the communication with the end customers, ensuring that the post-purchase journey is as swift as possible. And obviously this has a huge impact on the loyalty, on the reducing the churn rate, increasing the customer lifetime value, reducing the time to the next purchase, all those beautiful things that in retail we love.
And it sounds like a very data-driven business.
Of course.
In its heart.
Completely.
So as a head of data, you probably have a lot of fun there.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun. We have the opportunity to see different scopes and reality in the different industry fields, different baskets, different size of the basket. Also, the customer is different. The purchase behavior is completely different. The journey sometimes is different, which makes it super interesting and fun.
And you probably can apply, data in such an environment to a lot of things. Tell us about one or two use cases that are really fun.
Yeah, one is the one that we are actually we launched not that much ago. That was the estimated delivery date. So basically, a prediction to estimate the arrival date of a parcel. This everybody who is in retail knows it has a huge impact on the satisfaction of the customer. And you have to consider a lot of features there. It's not like you can treat the customer that is in UK dedicated to apparel to the customer that sits on the US dedicated to home and furniture. So it's all the realities that come into play, and this is one example that comes to my mind.
Yes. Wow. Cool. And when you arrived at Parcel Lab, what was the situation there? What did you find in terms of data capabilities? And that was, remind me, how long ago?
Almost 2 years.
Almost a year.
We are going in, 2 years, exactly. Yeah. So in a couple months, it will be 2 years. I would say that it's almost very similar to what I found in Decathlon. People tend to think that, obviously all companies do their best to use the state-of-the-art technologies, methodologies, and try to improve the way that they offer the service and the products. That's for sure. But also in Decathlon many years ago, and right now in Parcel Lab, when I arrived to Parcel Lab, there was one person trying to answer all the questions from the business and try to provide as much as insights to our customers. So that was kind of he was doing an amazing job, of course, everything that he could with the time and the capabilities that at the moment there were. So there was trying to solve kind of, how do you call it in English? Kind of trying to attack all the fires that appear everywhere.
All of them. So basically trying to serve all the business with data. That was sort of all the time, all day, all night, probably.
Yeah, correct. But they were doing an amazing job. I think that was like a ScaleUp, because Parcel Lab could be taken as a ScaleUp. It was a few years ago. It was a startup, and I think that it was kind of this. There's not this role of there's a data team. There was a data scientist. This person is dedicated to this. It was more kind of everybody in the engineering team as well were taking some roles as data engineers. So trying to process the data, then to prepare data for the insights, try to help where they could. So I think that there's not in a startup and a scale up, there's not this very clear borders on the competences, because you have to do everything in order to obviously offer up the best service to your customers. So that's kind of what was the reality at that one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think even in scale-ups, very often what you see is that the data team is mostly an analyst team, not necessarily a full data team.
Correct.
And so it was sort of similar as you found it when you joined, yeah, because you joined and you had sort of the analyst trying to cover everything, and that's sort of, I think, quite a typical situation. Because what you do is like you have engineers, like you said, that can give you the data somehow. But what you need is somebody who prepares the data to make decisions based on that in the beginning, and it's not super complex in the beginning. So it's about answering a lot of questions with data.
Yes, exactly. It's like this. I think that when you arrive to a company, that was in my case, you have two options, right? Or basically two ways. Either in terms of constructing or building the team, and the unit more than a team only. It obviously is a team, but building the unit and the services, the decision of, do I continue using infrastructure services and resources of other IT teams or other engineering teams, and I concentrate on the analytics part, or I try to grow and taking over competences to be a more holistic approach, to have a more holistic approach. Right. That's, I see in a lot of colleagues as well, this decision of, okay, where do we go now? Yes, that's right.
What was your turning point? I mean, when you arrived, did you clearly say, hey, we need a data team? Or was that already the mandate when you arrived?
Yeah, I think the first moment that I arrived was to try to be a little bit hands-on, trying to get to know, okay, what exactly are we providing at the moment? What is the needs that the stakeholders, internal and external, have already put on the table as, okay, this is a pull principle. So they have come and said, I need this. Most of the time, they didn't know exactly why they need this, but they need it. And try first to know these requirements. And then it was clear. It was clear that the trend was going high, and it was required to do recruiting, and it was required to have some specific profiles that, or building also the skills in house, which has been our case right now. We have built some skills in house and build some data analysts from the team. But recruit or build, but for sure we needed to do it. It was clear because of the demanding, and the trend was increasing, and also the potential that we saw behind the data and behind the business requirements.
So you essentially first took care of the demand, creating more demand, and that allowed you to scale the team. Is that yes, right? Yeah,
that could be a good summary. Actually, I was in another podcast a few weeks ago, almost a month ago, and we were saying that I always said, when you start in this business and when you are building this unit, you need to manage this data PR. So you really need to manage these public relationships in the company, and you need to start socializing what is possible. How does it look, the data? Even if it's not that perfect yet, even if you by yourself, you don't have a complete scope and idea of what you have there. But it's starting socializing, communicating, starting leveraging this motivation of the different, to the different levels of the organization, to create interest and to support, obviously to build support, because this is key.
And what did you do to build that support? I mean, you said you started socializing. Anything in particular? How you aim to communicate the value, or any steps you did, to communicate the story. I mean, how did you come up with a good story?
Yeah, I would say we focus. And I love Pareto. I also said it, I think, in the other podcast. But trying to find those 20% of the requirements that actually could take to the 80% of satisfaction of the requirements. And also I believe that is finding where the relationship between the resources that you invest and the effort that you invest actually returns into the highest profit for the organization itself. Once that you identify those pain points, that's not easy, because it requires a lot of meetings, a lot of coordination, a lot of exchange, a lot of learning by doing, a lot of testing what's really needed, what is not, and diving a little bit more deep than what actually you normally see on the surface, because the surface can be tricky. And this is, I would say, finding those pain points that actually could create immediate value for the organization.
That is a very good advice. Now, how do you find them? I know you said like lots of meetings, talking to a lot of people, but is there any systematic way, that you take?
I was.
Or is it just careful listening? I mean, maybe that's the approach, careful listening,
actually.
And how much do you look at data, in that process, and how much is it just listening to the business people?
Yeah, it's, you have to have a complete kind of Fair overview. I don't know if that's the word in English, but I was reading a book actually about the habit of coaching. I think it's the habit of coaching. The name is and it says in the subtitle, it says like the art of listening. Stop talking and start listening, and making the right questions. It's a lot of listening, and a lot of listening. But people, most of the time, when it comes to data, people know much more about what is not painful, but what is the need for what is the decision to be made. I always encourage to my colleagues that with whom I have exchange or when I have the opportunity to participate in podcasts. And so I always encourage that what the stakeholder normally says is one thing, but related to the data. The other is what is he or she looking to decide afterwards. So what's the decisions are important? Where are the decisions that are critical and super relevant for the business? And normally that conversation does not start talking about data. It's more about what are you doing right now? It's more about almost an ask me anything session. To get to know how does the priorities for this unit work, for let's say finance, marketing, operations, whatever it is try to hear what is in the highest priority for them. And normally in the highest priority are hidden those pain points that you can help. They, most of the time, 99% of the time, they wouldn't know that actually there are those pain points that you can solve with data. And this is our work. So it's like kind of putting those dots together. And that it is.
And I found asking people for which decisions are important for you actually not so easy. Like you can ask, that's easy, but you don't get usually the straightforward responses, and even more like it's even harder, like just to fill in a question. I tried that when I was doing my PhD. I was just, sending stuff like, okay, tell us like the 5 most important decisions. And I found that you need usually like 2-3 hour workshops with a business process expert to actually somehow get to these decisions. It's kind of, it's not so straightforward from sometimes people are spot on. They reflect and they actually can tell you, those are my 5 key decisions. But usually it's really like something you need to discover together because it's a bit hidden. Do you share that?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's not something that that's what I say. When you go into that workshop, meeting, exchange, whatever it is, you have to forget who you are. You have to forget that you are coming from data and you're trying to find out. Forget about that. This doesn't work. You have to go basically. What it has worked a lot is to ask, what are they working on right now? Right. So what are you working on? And then they start telling you, I don't know. Let's say, we are trying to, create leads, let's say marketing, create leads on this area of this type of customers, building a customer persona. We are, creating a campaign for, this, or we are preparing material for that event. And then there it is. So what is priority for them. And it has nothing to do, obviously it has everything to do with data. But at the first glance, it doesn't. And that's where you have to scratch a little bit.
I think this is probably one of the best advice that was given so far on this Data Masterclass podcast, So I think this is really the $1 million question. What are you working on?
Exactly.
That's really great. That's so easy. And nobody will be like, everyone will feel fine as a stakeholder to respond to that question. Really clever.
Yes, and actually, obviously it's not that I'm super smart. Just that I can tell it's like telling my experience. This is what has worked out for me. Yes. Definitely a lot.
Great, love it, and I will try that out very soon. But I already I think all my experience so far tells me that this is probably the best approach. Like
awesome. Happy to hear you. Tell me, how does it go?
Great. So when you arrived, and you had that sort of there was not really a data unit. There was somebody there, and you started to build up that data unit. What were your goals, and did you align those goals, or did you have that more like for yourself, and you rather had these more chatty conversations, and how open were you about your goals, and what were your goals?
Yeah, I believe at least when you arrive, in my opinion, obviously this is my humble opinion, you need to find out what are the goals of the company, right? When you started a position, when you get into a company, or maybe you are just growing into that role, leading the data unit of an organization in which you were already working on. I believe that it's more to first get to know what is the goals of the organization. So where do you want to go? Where do they want to go? There's a reason why you are in that position of leading that existing or non-existing yet unit. So there's a reason. And you have to find out exactly what was the reason. So they put you there because, I don't know, they want to offer better products, better data as a product, or they want to offer better service, internal service. They want the company to make data-driven decisions. They want, it sounds kind of funny, but they want to have better dashboards on the executive meetings. I don't know. It's like, it's a whole cumulate of needs that actually are the reason why you are starting a data unit. And this is what matters at the very beginning. Once that you find out what was the goals, you need to interpret them. What does it mean actually for a unit? What does it mean for a team? How does it should look like? The needs of, in my case, in my two last experience, the needs of Decathlon were different, and also the ecosystem and the stack and many other things that the data leaders know. They were completely different than what I have or what I've had in Parcel Lab at the beginning. So there were two different environments, obviously two different organizations, two different business, although in the world of retail and e-commerce, but at the end of the day, different company personas.
Could you contrast a bit the needs? Because, the need of one company and the other, because I think that's quite interesting to compare that.
Yeah, retail. One is a big retailer, and the other one is a software as a service, so a tech company. In the retailer, it was clear that there was a need for creating, the majority of the time, 90% of the time, was creating data for the business. So internal analytics, data science, building machine learning models for predictions for different units in the organization, obviously improving the end customer journey and the experience, and increasing specific KPIs of the online business and offline business as well. And there was that need, that goal that was clear. And therefore, there was obviously required specific profiles like data scientist, data analyst, and there was a need not for building or setting up the infrastructure and building that much of that engineering scope, but it was the need of a data architect. Mm-hmm. So there was a need of data architect. Normally, in those big companies, you have already technology and infrastructure that is provided by central services that normally are global even. Right. And in that case, you need someone who only supports the needs of those analytics requirements and in processing the data for that specific needs. That's in my case, that's what happened in Decathlon. What happened in Parcel Lab is that you take over a lot of the engineering part. So the data engineering part requires much more resources. You're required to align to different process, because in that case is 90% of the time is data as business. So is data, is predictions, is visualizations, is exports, reports, analysis, and all for our customers. And meaning that obviously what we need is the way that we provide and that we consume and we integrate is much more complex. And right. You normally in data for the business, you deploy let's say directly in an extraction that goes through, I don't know, a spreadsheet. Let's talk it super simple, or directly in your BI tool, to which the whole company has access. In data as business, you have to deploy through an API, or you have to put it available in some way so that the customer can access to it and can use it in their own ecosystem. So this is the profiles. The profiles are different in that case. Mm-hmm.
So really, you had to look what is needed and what is there, and also like, what other organizations are doing within, or other sort of departments are doing. And that's where you figure out, okay, where do I position myself with the data team, with the data organization that you built, basically?
Yes, exactly. Also, the way that then later on is start to group kind of the processes is different. In the retailer normally goes around the different type of services, or where does the data come from. So it goes basically, for example, you have a lot of online analytics, you have a lot of offline or stationary services, some retailers also call it, not necessarily Decathlon, but some retailers call it like this. And you have also some part of the customer experience analytics, also some related more to the marketing area. And the way that is more structured in data as a business is it's a lot to the capabilities of the resources to deliver something specific. Let's say more data science, data engineering. So it's in that way it groups, and this makes kind of different the dynamic from the team itself.
So during this kind of journey, of now nearly 2 years, what were the main results you would say you achieved so far, or what are the things you are proud of? Let's put it in a nicer form.
Obviously, I'm super proud of the results of data as a business, of the predictions and the business intelligence that we are offering right now to our customers. But I would say that what it makes me super proud in this idea of prioritizing the data as a business is the data for business. It's basically what we have built as the basis for the data culture in Parcel Lab. So what we are achieving around or across all the different business units in terms of data-driven decisions. Also in excitement and interest for data, for doing more with data, for creating also or boosting more of their own activity with what they can find in internal analytics.
And one approach or one key thing here in that journey was actually to decrease the number of ad hoc requests that you do centrally. Is that right? And empowered the business to actually create those things by themselves.
Autonomy is key. Yeah. And when I said, I think that autonomy in many sense, autonomy in the possibility of reading, understanding, using the data for the internal stakeholder, but autonomy also on leveraging their own needs. So defining, I need this, I can get it through data. So this autonomy of this motivation, so that they own this decision, this is super important. And then the autonomy to execute and to extract, to read, to understand, to process, or also analyze in their own need. I think that is key. I would say this is a great achievement that we have done. Obviously, actually, the funny part is that we didn't do with the goal of reducing ad hoc requirements. It happens that it happened just as obviously, and then we saw it, why we don't have any more ad hoc requirements? And then we saw, basically it has changed. We have much more tasks running on an internal analytics tool, and the ad hoc requirements have decreased in the same proportion. So basically, this is what has happened.
What did you need to do to get there? I guess it was a number of steps on the journey to use the ad hoc steps, or to reduce the ad hoc support so drastically, and at the same time, sort of like the balancing thing. Automatically, you achieve that, of course, only through autonomy in the business using data. But how do you get there?
It's a long journey. I would say that it starts with where we spoke already, to try to hear a lot. What are they working on? Where does the priorities for them, and finding those pain points and trying to show that the internal analytics, that it is tool, platform, or method that you have to deliver those insights actually can solve their problems. And then something that people tend to hate because things that is so old fashioned, but repetition. I believe in repetition. If I say something to you 4 times in this conversation, I can swear for God that you will at the end or tomorrow you will remember that part of this conversation. I believe on repeating that in different scenarios, repeating in town halls, repeating in newsletter, repeating in open office hours for demonstrating the capabilities of your tool, repeating also in emails and example extractions, repeating through global dashboards. So repeating so that you see it so much that finally you said, yeah, it's true. I saw it somewhere. I can try. The first time that you hear about this, the availability of those insights, you will say, yeah, interesting. You will forget. The second time, maybe you will have interest. The third time, you will go there and you will try by yourself. So this is kind of what I believe, at least.
Repetition is the mother of skills. That's what I learned.
So true.
So I think you are confirming that statement.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of the data leaders struggle with that though because of their personalities. Because I think us as data leaders, most of us are very curious to do new things every day, and repeating the same messages over and over again can be tiring after a while. I mean, it can be fulfilling. I find it sometimes very fulfilling because you create a movement based on that. You get more and more people, saying these things, even when you're not in the room, even when they're not part of your organization. That's when you achieve a transformation, because transformation starts with language and people repeating the concepts or the things that you're trying to infuse into the organization.
I think that if you want to generate change, because it's a change on the culture of the company, of the organization, you have to understand it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So 100%, right? So if you understand that from the beginning and you set up yourself for that, it will be obviously at some points and in some stages exhausting, but it will show always rewards because you are always waiting for those small rewards. You don't wait for, we are going to create data culture. No, you're waiting for, let's see if people start using that dashboard that we created for them. And that is already a small reward to motivate the team or to motivate the unit and continue doing what was the original path. Other thing that I would say that is super important, and it's like you have to, as we in retail, it's always you aim to build this customer persona, and you also have to do the same thing in internal analytics. It's very funny. I was talking to a colleague a few weeks ago and saying, like, for retail, it's so important to build a customer persona so that you know who is your customer. Or the type of customers that you have, who are they? And in internal analytics, it's exactly the same. And you will have you cannot build it per unit. You cannot say, I am my customer from finance, my customer from, no, actually is in finance, but then you have also different type of customers. You have that one that will create, as soon as you show how to create, let's say, SQL queries, the most basic, he will spend 2 weeks going even further and creating amazing visualizations, extractions, and he will start using those reportings to share with his colleagues or her colleagues, and that will have, that's that type of customer. But there's the other one that actually wants to just have access to the insights that is required for a specific process. Right. And you need to understand those different customers and then create something for both. So give a basis where they can access to those insights, filter, or you do not put more work on accessing the insights. And on the other hand, give also the possibility for those other customers that want to explore much farther. And those are like kind of the exceptional customers, right?
So, and they are so important at the same time, because usually those are your ambassadors inside the business. They tell other people, hey, but what you can do is also this kind of thing. Did you know? I think those people you want to keep close and create a community around.
Yes. You know how I like to call them? I was talking to the person who actually was starting the data, the only person who was the data team at the beginning, and we have done an amazing job together. And we were talking that I would like to call them the data influencers. So that would be the terminology. So data influencers, that's what we need. So people who are super excited about data, who are using already to the maximum of the capabilities or to our available tools, even getting further, sharing already what they can produce by themselves, and creating or boosting this autonomy on their unit. And those are really super important actors on this interaction.
I fully agree. And I think in both, in two senses, one is because they are helping you to drive that culture change. But I think also the second one is that's also very important is they are looking for business opportunities in their business unit with data. They are the ones that are shaping the data strategy of that business unit, which is quite crucial. And that helps, of course, you tremendously, because in this, as a data leader in the center, you cannot know all the parts of the business and what the right strategies for data inside these business units. You rely on such people who have the domain knowledge that helps you to shape up, how to leverage data best in that unit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I totally agree. Also, in that conversation, what I see a lot is that many leaders go to the managers. And I would say, actually, that is not top bottom. That doesn't work, because if I say, look, we have this new analytics tool, this internal analytics tool, where your team can extract this, please share it. This will come as, yes, please use it. Will never happen. So this is not like this. So you need to find out what the executors are working on. What are their really priorities? What is they're really also passionate about? Because in our job normally there's also things that we have to do and things that we love to do, right? And if you find where is this join, you will really be able to find out super critical pain points. And if you motivate these bases to use the insights to make better decisions, then everything will go from bottom to top.
Really cool. I had a question related to that, and that was really with regards to the top management versus the rest. How much of your time and focus do you spend on the top management, and how much time do you focus in that culture change on those analysts, evangelists, or on those influencers, as you call them, or many, or maybe also the other people, in the business, the rest of the people in data, in the business.
My boss, I hope my boss doesn't hear this, but yes, he will hate me for this. I would say, to be honest, I only hear to the top management when it goes regarding goals. So alignment to the goals of the organization, which is critical, like we spoke at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And when they have a specific requirement that they need, they know, and they come to you with, look at this, I want this type of plotting in this report, or we should offer this to our customers. When they come with this passion, that's when I dedicate time. Because otherwise, what happens with the senior managers is that they normally their job is to have a complete overview and more strategic approach for everything. Yes. And this strategic approach does not help necessarily to build those strong basis of the data culture. Right. And it comes, like I said, from bottom to top. So those are the two occasions that I pay my whole attention, or that the teams pay the whole attention to the senior managers. Otherwise, we concentrated on building in across the executors of the different units, and it just show up, like you plant a seed and it comes up.
Really good. Yes. And you also, I think, a more tangible part of your culture change was also to invest time into making data understandable. It's like building up a data dictionary, maybe also doing some data flow diagrams and so on. Why do you think it's important, and how did you approach that?
People fear what they do not understand. Mm-hmm. People tend to like to use and to to be curious about things that they start to understand. So basically the main motivation is transparency. It's transparency across everybody, across the whole organization. And always when we have started this data dictionary was as any role in the company, how do I understand what does a specific variable mean? What does it have there? What do we call it like this? What is exactly the format where it comes from? So it's for us, in data, and engineers, maybe everybody will understand, but this has to be a complete democratization. And this is where data dictionary is super useful. Obviously, right now we have internet and we go to internet and ask ChatGPT or whatever we find out, or we can ask to Google whatever we want to know. But remember, the dictionary basically is you don't understand a word, you go to the dictionary and find out what is it. So this is the definition, right? And this is the first step. So you need to be sure that everybody who wants to know what is able to know. As your data, and I said it 2 years ago in Frankfurt in an encounter with CDOs, does it actually all this bunch of beautiful buzzwords doesn't make us even more unreachable? I think that you were even there, and I was like, why we're making ourselves even more far away from everybody, like more specials, and that's not the right approach. So if we are speaking another language, we need to put them how to translate, and the first step is a dictionary. So this is super simple. Everybody has to, and you need to challenge your dictionary. You always need to think that when you develop something to create transparency in data, you need to share it with many type of users, many customer personas, internal customer personas, so that you identified potential improvements as well, and really how useful it is. So this is, for me, is the first step. Stop speaking different languages, so that we understand each other and we are able to satisfy the needs of the business. And then the diagram is because we are visuals. So we understand what we see when it's an image, when it's a picture, when it's a draw, we understand immediately. When you have 200 words, 300 words, possibly the half of the people won't read it. And when you see an image, you are immediately curious about it. And being able to follow a path for people who are more interested to know how does this data end up where is critical as well. And this is where I think the diagramming helps a lot. Also because nobody in every company, or also with all the colleagues that I have exchanged, I ask them, your stakeholders know how this data ended up there? And sometimes they are amazed because they say, no, they have no idea that they are the ones who produce this data. Sometimes they're, really? We produce that? Yes, you produce that. And that's how will they take ownership? How will create data governance in some day if they don't even know that actually that data comes from them? And this is a very funny example, but it's like this, right?
Well, it's a very realistic example that you probably find in many places like this.
Yes.
So I think it's probably more the norm than the unusual. And I think one thing that is really difficult with data dictionaries is that it's not about the technical meaning of the data. I think the hardest part is to understand where does it really, how is it produced? In which context is it produced? What does it mean when it is produced as data, from a business perspective? Because that's not something that your data engineers usually know. You need to go to the business and find out. And it's almost like, it's sometimes difficult to map because data engineers understand that field while the business experts understand their process, but mapping that is actually quite a difficult exercise. What is your experience here?
My experience is that the definition has to be, because if I asked and you make the query to extract the name of the columns and the type of variable that you have there, it will, for a data engineer would be enough to have the name of the column, the type of variable and period. So that would be, okay, this is a dictionary because I know what is there, what type, if it's an integer, if it's a string, so you will know exactly what is there. And
you don't because maybe exactly. it's customer name, but which customer? You don't know. Maybe that's
exactly. And you need to find I think that you need to make your best effort because that won't be perfect, as you said. So, even I put this example a while ago, when talking in retail. So I remember that we were talking about revenue, and we would say, revenue is last month was equal to what? To X. And I said, no, it was Y. I said, no, that cannot be true. And then they were discussing between two units who has right. For one, revenue was revenue minus returns. For the other one was revenue pure. So, and then you have this is one example. So different units understand different things.
Actually.
Correct, because it depends on how they use that data.
Yes.
And then they come up with their definition that goes the better with their use of that data. I would say that's the magic there and the complexity. And that's why I say challenge your dictionary with different customer personas, with different internal customer personas, so that even if it's maybe your definition is, it's more oriented to finance, the person on marketing, the person on production operations, on engineering understands the definition and understands what is the potential use of that data. This would be for me a kind of the best approach. Won't be perfect. Perfection, to be honest, perfection and data, people tend to overestimate because they say numbers cannot lie. It's like there's not perspectives, but it is because of the way that you interpret those.
And I think when you build that business meaning of data, the difficulty is that you have so many perspectives that it's a little bit soft, and you need to talk to a lot of people. And my experience is that the people working in data units are not necessarily the chitty-chatty people that go to everyone and try to understand the business meaning of data. So, either you cover it as a data leader or you hire product managers that start doing that. Or you need to find any other strategies to create that proximity to your data producers. Also the business side of the data producers, because they know the processes and the context.
Yeah, I agree. This is needed. I have another. Actually, my way to go for this is from day zero. Some units tend to say, okay, when a person is new, maybe does not have contact with this stakeholder, with external stakeholders. For me, contact is the first thing that they should do. So, and the team has direct contact with everybody. We have the principle of no middleman. So basically, if one of the data scientists need to speak with the CTO or with the BP of some units, very specific things, I have, which is it makes me proud, right? Maybe some people will say, oh my God. But I have, I used to have 2 students working on a project with our CFO. Directly. So directly, the 2 students were working, we are a small company, of course, but anyways, cool. It's impressive. It's impressive. So they were working and they came out, we exchanged with her and we presented this. And they were super empowered and super confident about what they were doing. Obviously, there was a lot of support on the team. Right. But I believe in that. It's not, if you want to achieve, this, closeness from the team to the business and to understanding the requirements, you have to let them have contact from the day zero.
Wow, that's really great, and I think this is how data people should work. So, what were the toughest challenges on this journey? Towards driving this data culture through analytics, essentially, and self-service analytics, and making data more easier to use.
Yeah, I said already one, there was identifying those customer personas and understanding that they will use maybe the same data, but not in the same way. And also they need other type of service. Some need the possibility to, and some other just want the insights, basically. And that's challenging to discover and to develop solutions that actually are adequate for both type of or more type of customer personas in your organization. And the other one is this change and we all know about this. So
change is pain.
Yeah, obviously it's like growing pains, and
it requires a lot of patience.
Correct, a lot of patience and
a lot of communication, a lot of repetition, like you said.
Exactly, you got it. You see?
Perfect. And what were the lessons learned for you on this? In particular, on serving these kind of different personas. I mean, that's quite tough to do, like you said. Any magic?
One of the secrets I would say, I will be sharing in the masterclass some other super tips. One of the secrets, and it's maybe it sounds super simple, but is do not fear. I see a lot of fear lately on delivering data features, data products, even if for internal consume. People tend to fear, and as we delayed the provision, or we also are not kind of encapsulate ourselves as a unit, and we are not really interacting with the stakeholders. So do not fear of try to put a minimum valuable product out and a functional solution, and then see what happens. I have seen a lot of fear, and therefore solutions stay on the background, stay not in production because of fear.
So be courageous, basically, to turn it around.
Be courageous.
As a data leader,
Let's put it positive. Be courageous.
Great. Yes. So we need courageous data leaders. I agree, and the role requires courage. I fully agree with you, and I haven't heard that put this way. So I think it's good that you're saying that aloud. Talking about that, for any young data leaders, that are starting in that role, some people worked in data science or as an analyst or as a data engineer. They go through the rank, and someday they start to become data leaders, And what would be the advice that you would give to them?
One advice that I give, even I have given to some people that I have mentored, is always go back to your strategy. What happens, I don't know if that has happened to you at some point in your career, maybe not, but what has happened to me, I have seen happen,
probably too many times.
The data strategy becomes a very beautiful thing on a paper, on a wall, on a share file, on somewhere. The beautiful, amazing, looks great. It looks like we're genius. Perfect. Nobody remembers that thing. So it stays there. It was approved. We show it to the executives or senior managers, and it was amazing. They are super excited about what we are doing. Maybe they didn't even understand what we are going to do, but it doesn't matter because it looks nice. And you never go back. The strategy, if you don't go back to your strategy every month to basically do this coupling from what your team is doing, and obviously you and your team are doing, to this strategy, what does it bring? And you don't do this retrospective yourself, this strategy is not useful. Yeah. So this is not something that you need. And then you need to restructure your work. But basically, that's for me super tip.
You basically walk a bit, you look where you got, and then adjust a bit, like your sails to sail in the right direction again. It's almost like...
Yes. So basically, that the strategy is how I'm going to go from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So this is how
and I need
to
know the point B, I need to know the point
Correct.
A, and I need to recheck on that point A because the point A is changing. And
Exactly.
I might need to, I might have sailed a bit west, and then I need to adjust my course east a bit, because it has changed. And I think if you do that only once a year or every 2 years, you will not get to your goal. Like you will not sail to the right destination.
Yeah, and as a leader, that's your job. So you need to concatenate this and make corrections if the trajectory is not going to point B, and on time, of course, and keep also motivated the team to keep delivering results and to achieve the goals that you established at the beginning.
That's really great advice, and I can tell you. So I am usually quite over ambitious on delivering the data strategy, which means that, I'm pushing it like almost to the limit where people say, hey, please stop. We just want to do our business. But, once we have a data strategy agreed, I want to get it done. And I think one thing that I learned is like, usually data strategies take you several years. So usually it's not enough to do a data strategy and then execute for 2 or 3 years. What you need to do is to almost rebrand the data strategy every year, to get where you want to go, because you need to remotivate the people. Maybe also to adjust a bit the purpose. Maybe the purpose in the first year was to enable this and that in the business, but then that purpose is shifting, as also the company strategy is shifting. I think that's something that we need to be very flexible on, to have your clear sort of goal, but maybe also, to adjust it slightly, and also to just adjust the messaging and maybe also the priorities and how you execute it, based on how the business is changing, how your stakeholders are changing, the needs are changing, and the world is changing around you, because the world is changing as we do this transformation. It doesn't stay as on day one when you create that data strategy.
Yes. Actually, in 2 weeks, I have after the Data Masterclass, I have the trajectory meeting in Frankfurt with my team. I'm super fond of checking the trajectory with the team. Like I said, also as a leader for yourself, you need to check if you need to reshape, basically. Right. Reshaping for me is the nature of the business. As you said, everything evolves, everything changes. The conditions, the needs, the goals, the expectations of the business also change. Technology changes to speed that right now it's incredible. So you need to reshape that for sure. And it's the main job. It's a huge responsibility. And that's where a lot of the focus of the data leader should be.
Yes, and I couldn't agree more with you on the speed, because we are used, as data leaders, we are used to speed. I think that's part of our job description. Over the last 10 years, we had at least 8 paradigm shifts, and from big data to cloud-based platforms, to IoT, lots of things on the way, and to applying software engineering best practices inside data. All these shifts happened in such a short time frame, but now it's almost seems like it's accelerating even more. Last year, most companies started to look into adoption of data mesh. And as they started to look into that adoption, generative AI popped along the way. So it shifted completely. Both things are very exciting and have a lot of value, but it sort of shifted the focus from left to right. And, again, and it's very hard to then, follow through on one thing as you're approached by this sort of, external pressure to actually act on that. So, and that's also one reason why actually we started the Data Masterclass program, because I think the fundamental belief is that, the best practices, what is the right thing to do this year, will be very different to the thing last year and next year. That's something that is part of our DNA in data as data leaders. So we need to adapt that practical body of knowledge every year. And that's why we bring all the people together to Berlin now in 2 weeks' time for the Data Masterclass Europe to discuss this. What is the current practical body of knowledge in 2023, and how to get set up yourself for 2024? That's sort of the thing. And you're part of that, and you will share some of your more of your secrets. I'm looking forward to that. What are you looking forward to in that program or in the masterclass?
Obviously, you summarized it already greatly. I am looking forward for the exchange. I believe that my secrets basically come from my experience, for what I have seen, also exchange with other data leaders. But I'm 100% sure that the other data leaders that will join us will have lived amazing, also implementation process, data team building processes as well, providing data for business as business. And I am obviously super excited or getting to know what is their takeaways from that expertise, and obviously finding maybe common points and discovering what is coming next.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us so many insights in this episode of the Data Masterclass podcast on the whole topic that is so relevant, for every one of us as data leaders, how to drive culture change and do it in a very tangible way, using analytics where you see the results, where you see the things in practice. Thank you so much for being with us, Viviana.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Thanks for having me, and see you in Berlin.
See you in Berlin. Thank you.
Borek Data Masterclass, where great data journeys begin.